Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's round 2 of FNM here at Nerd Rage Gaming. I'm your host, Andrew Donnelly. With me, as always, my co-host,
Mass Destruction, Matthew Robert Dow.
Let's get into the match. We have Noah Cohen versus CJ, starting off here with a blue-black control list and a Tamir mid-range list. So this should be an interesting matchup. Two decks that we are not used to seeing.
No, sir. The blue-black control list ended the last standard by winning a Grand Prix, so finally got there after, I think being a pile for a long time.
A pretty big amount of time. It was commonly referred to as
a bad deck.
Yeah, as a bad deck or common control is what the kind of nickname I heard for it.
So CJ, on the other hand, playing Tamir mid-range, which is also a deck that kind of fell out of favor, but maybe got some new new fate cards to make it a little bit better.
Well, it's got one or two in there, I think. It hasn't been a lot added to the deck, but he's definitely got, I believe the Phoenixes were the first edition to go in.
All right, well, game's going to start. Noah's going to play Temple of Deceit, Scry, and then pass to CJ, who plays Forest. Noah plays Dismal Backwater to gain life, goes up to 21. Passes back to CJ.
Looks like CJ is going to have a timely carried here.
Yep, which is pretty ideal, I think. So turn 2 carried it off of a mountain and a pass back. Noah draws another land. He has, looks like a couple of Disdainful Strokes in hand, some lands, and yeah, it's just typical
control
race. I imagine he's going to try to counter whatever CJ plays.
There you go.
3-drops do not line up very well for Noah, in that he has a couple of Disdainful Strokes in his hand.
So that's the Flamewake Phoenix that CJ played.
Also another card that doesn't really line up well for Noah, in that he needs a way to exile it. Hero's Downfall, I guess, is an answer, but CJ can next turn just play a Savage Knuckleblade, which is also a tough card for Noah to answer, and
correct,
get triggered and get it back. So CJ plays the Temple, keeps this card on top. Noah draws another Temple. So I think Noah would really like a Dissolve here. Something that counters 3 mana spells. Or else I think he's going to be in trouble, in that Savage Knuckleblade could come down next turn. Oh, I guess he can... No, he doesn't have Hero's Downfall anymore. He has a couple of Disdainful Strokes. We'll see. Noah plays the Flooded Strain and passes back.
So he's keeping the mana up here. I don't know if he's trying to bait CJ into running something out, but...
Yeah, I think he's just hoping to counter something with Disdainful Stroke.
Sure.
Which, if I'm CJ, I'm probably just going to play Savage Knuckleblade and give it haste. So, we'll see. CJ taps the mana for Savage Knuckleblade, although I imagine if we're playing Knuckleblade, we'd tap off of the Temple of Mastery instead of the Chivalry to prevent taking a damage, although I can't imagine it's going to matter too much in this matchup.
Sure. I mean, you're either at that point you're then tapping your carried for the red.
Yeah. So
Rabble
CJ
Master
decides to go with the Rabble Master, which another card that Noah can't counter with those Disdainful Strokes.
It's gonna fetch.
So looks like he probably does have a Dissolve here. He's fetching.
Still leaves CJ with a token on board.
No, not if it gets dissolved.
Oh, very true. Yeah.
And you'd fetch before dissolving, so you can actually get value off your scry.
For 4/5.
So he's going to delve 2, and he's going to Murderous Cut it.
Cut it before combat.
That makes
Not
sense.
bad.
Nope. CJ's going to follow up with another Sylvan Caryatid.
So I think the double carried here just allows CJ the strength to really make sure that Knuckleblade, if there is no counterspell, really sticks.
Yeah, for sure.
You can turn on all of its options at that point.
Yep, definitely. Although it doesn't play too well into Perilous Fault and Crux of Fate.
Very true. Cards we know Noah's playing now, of course, in the blue-black. Crux of Fate being probably the card one of the cards it was looking for, at least.
I don't know. I like Perilous Fault. The 5-mana Wrath is sweet, but I think Perilous Fault might actually just be better. I mean, it's so demoralizing to have your opponent play a Perilous Fault when you have like an empty board, which is what this deck's trying to kind of do.
Yeah.
So CJ is going to run out the Knuckle Blade here, and it has some backup in that it can return bounce to the hand. It also can give it haste and bounce it to his hand. So things aren't looking very good for Noah unless if he doesn't have a counterspell here. It looks like he does not.
Here comes the Phoenix.
There's haste, there's Phoenix trigger, and now we're gonna. Oh, okay, so he cannot give the. So the Phoenix costs 1 red to
Correct.
bring back? Okay.
Yes, it costs
Right.
1 red to bring back, but it comes back to the battlefield with haste, unlike Chandra's Phoenix.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So I kind of like the line of not giving the Knuckleblade haste either, because say something goes wrong and you see a Crux of Fate, bouncing the Knuckleblade, and then playing the Knuckleblade, bringing back the Phoenix. This is where I think what you want the Tamir decks to kind of become now.
Yeah, I don't give the Knuckleblade haste there. This deck can't beat a Knuckleblade with mana up.
No, it can't. It's very hard to, at least. I mean, a timely dissolve is like your best thing.
You have to try to kill it and then dissolve it. So CJ gonna attack in there. Imagine he's gonna pump the Knuckleblade, give it +2/+2, and attack for 8.
Ouch.
Noah's gonna take it, go to 10. So I imagine Noah's gonna end step dig through time here.
That seems good.
And CJ
There's the stubborn denial.
Mine is the stubborn denial.
Oh boy.
It's a timely one. We're gonna play a tap land.
Drew a Bioblight?
Yeah, he has a Bioblight, Disdainful Stroke, and I think it kind of looks like an alternate art Ugin.
Really?
Yeah.
He may have it. It's a possibility. I mean,
his dad owns the shop, so.
Very true. Those cards were very hard to come by.
Yeah, I had one opened adjacent to me in one of the pre-releases I played.
Yes.
Yeah, that felt bad.
An alternate art one, or just a regular one?
An alternate art.
Oh, jeez.
It's like, here's your Ugin pack, and then your opponent, the player next to you, is like, here's yours, and he's like, oh. I'm like, I opened a bunch of junk, and he opens the $100 card or something like that.
It does hurt. Let's see if he runs it out, though.
He doesn't have 8 mana right now. So
okay, so
I don't think he's going to get the opportunity in this game to run out Ugin. But we'll see. He has Ugin, I think, Disdainful Stroke, and Bioblade, so I think he's priced into Bioblading this Phoenix. CJ has 8 mana.
A lot of mana.
So if he has another land, CJ can just threaten to double pump and then still have bounce, which might be what he chooses to do. I think.
Here's the pump. Pump once.
Yeah, he's going to pump once.
Bioblight that. Pump my guy again?
No, because I think you still run the risk of it getting like heroes down.
Sure.
So, like I said, this deck just has a very difficult time beating a Knuckleblade with mana up. So Noah draws another land. I think he has. So he has 8 mana now. He would be able to play what I believe is an alternate art Ugin, or a regular.
Or a regular Ugin. I mean, regardless, if it's Ugin, it's still very true. That's correct. Knuckleblade can only be pumped once per turn.
Yeah. I've never played with the card, so I don't know. Never played.
Regardless, okay.
To be fair, I never read the text on it either, because people play it and I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I have 7/8 unblockable creature. You can have your terrible 4/4 that has multiple abilities. Get it out of here.
So the control deck's going to lose the game 1, but I mean, a lot of the time with these decks, you're kind of playing for the game 2, right? Like that's what you're.
As a control deck? No, man. My opponent's playing some Tamir mid-range deck. I'm looking to take game 1 easily.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Green creature decks. Although I think this mid-range deck here, the Tamir deck, is pretty well positioned against the control deck, in that the Flaming Phoenix is pretty tough for
control decks
to beat.
Yeah.
That Knuckleblade is pretty tough to beat.
Very true.
And I don't know what other threats you might have. I don't know if there's Shaman of the Great Hunt, the new.
No. Like I said, the only cards we added to this deck were just the Phoenixes for now. We didn't really know. I know there was maybe a Yaseva or 2 in the sideboard.
Oh wow.
Because that card's fairly good against other aggro decks, being able to take their creatures. But what do we have in the sideboards for? Who do you got up first?
We'll start with CJ. So CJ has in his sideboard 2 Hornet Nests.
Yep.
3 Void Snares.
Yep.
Looks like 3 Magma Sprays.
Mm-hmm.
3 Lightning Strikes. 3 Disdainful Strokes. And I think the last card, I don't know what the last card is. Like, can't see it.
Interesting. Okay.
But yeah, so I don't particularly... I mean, I like Disdainful Stroke.
Yep.
I think that card's pretty good. I think that's probably all I'm
Really bringing
in.
Yeah.
It's Disdainful Stroke from CJ. Hornet Nest is bad, Void Snare is bad, Magma Strike is bad, Lightning Strike does nothing.
Really, you don't think Void Snare is good there, huh?
No. Void Snare is a sorcery. What are you going to do? You bounce your guy?
You can bounce the Perilous Vault? Because then they have to recast it to use it again? I'm just saying, it's an interesting...
Okay, maybe. I don't like it.
Right next to the Disdainful Stroke? Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah.
That's Stoke the Flames.
Okay, so then one Stoke the Flames also on the sideboard, which is a card I also don't like and
Sure.
bring in this matchup.
And for Noah?
All right, well, moving on to Noah. Noah has 4 Thoughtseizes, 2 Dark Betrayals, 2 Negates, 3 Drown in Sorrows, 3 Jurabai Murklurkers, and 1 Perilous Vault.
Wow, so he's still on the Murklurker plan. Likes the Murklurkers.
And don't leave home without your
You
Murklurkers.
can't not play your Murklurkers.
I like Perilous Vault.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a little slow, but it does get rid of it. It is a way to get rid of that Flaming Phoenix for good.
Sure.
Pretty much Noah's only answer to get rid of that card for good.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughtseize I think is pretty good too. In that it's an answer to Savage Knuckleblade.
Yep. Being able to just strip threats from your opponent's hand.
Yeah.
The threats that your deck normally can't deal with.
Yeah, and
sure.
Noah has like main deck Disdainful Strokes, which
Yep.
I don't particularly like. I don't know how many 4 drops. I don't know if this deck's playing like Storm Breath Dragon.
It is.
All right, no, I didn't see any.
It's
I saw a bunch of 3 drops.
It's
and
playing.
the
I can
Disdainful
tell you.
Strokes in my hand.
Well,
Looks so bad.
because it's my deck, it is playing Stormbreath Dragon. It is playing Sarkin.
Right.
So there's some.
So
there's
I
some
will keep the
high-end
Disdainful
spice.
Strokes.
Sure. So now you want to keep them in. Okay. I mean, there's some high-end spice to
Maybe
it.
we take out like. Is Crux of Fate all that good here? I mean, it seems weird to be taking out like a sweeper against, like a mid-rangey deck,
Yeah.
but Crux of Fate doesn't play very well against Knuckleblade or the Phoenix very well. I mean, it's good against like Caryatids, but I imagine CJ boarded out as Caryatids because they just are just kind of like
They don't
swept
do
up.
anything.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I don't know. I do like Thoughtseize and the other Perilous Vault.
I agree with Thoughtseize. I agree with the Perilous Vault. I don't know about the Crux of Fate either. I know Noah's deck runs, I think, 1 or 2 of Silumgrand, the blue-black legendary dragon. Yeah, the one that gives -1/-1. But to be fair, he's at 3/7 with hexproof, so he's hard as hell to kill. I mean, really tough.
This is true.
So, definitely an interesting creature. If you look at his face, he's got a pug face.
He does. The other thing about Crux of Fate is, I mean, if you have dragons and then non-dragons,
Yep.
Crux of Fate doesn't do too well in that situation.
That's very true.
So,
yeah,
like Stormbreath Dragon versus a Knuckleblade.
Yeah.
I got
Who do I kill?
Well, then I don't kill anybody because Knuckleblade bounces and Dragon,
Dragon. Okay, so I'm going to kill Dragon,
you
but
kill
then my own
Dragon.
dragon dies.
Right, yeah.
Sure, I got you. All right.
So we'll see. Start game 2 here. Noah's going to be on the play. CJ will be on the draw.
It's funny, CJ was originally going to play the blue-white heroic deck that we're all fond of.
done it.
Grabbed the wrong deck box.
That's a
We play Tamir now.
terrible mistake. Speaking of terrible,
Noah's hand.
No, Noah's hand is actually not that bad. He has. I didn't see the blue lane, so he has looks like 2 swamps, a Bile-Blight. I don't know how good Bile-Blight is against this deck.
Well,
Seems kind of stinky too.
yeah, it doesn't seem that
But
great.
he does have the Dismal Backwater to at least hopefully cast some of these expensive blue spells we have
Sure,
in our hand, and
sure.
I think double Jace's Ingenuity, Pearl Lake Agent.
I think if, unfortunately, I know we were talking about CJ siding out his Sylvan Caratids. If you remember back to when we first started casting FNM, and we really, our main issue with Tamir decks was the fact that their mana base always seemed to be a little bit off. I think you still run into that problem here. I think it's very dangerous to take out the Caratids because the deck almost plays a aggro-esque mana base, so you're not always going to hit the lands that you want. You know, you really get punished in Tamir colors for kind of playing these cards.
Yeah, and I guess it also gets worse when you're at a double red 3-drop into your deck that you want to cast on curve. I don't know. I just don't really like Sylvan Caryatid in these type of matches.
I don't either against the control deck. I 100% agree with you. I just, watching CJ Mulligan here, I kind of feel like you're in that situation.
But I still think, like, Noah's deck, what is Noah going to do? Like, you can sort of play more of like a slower game.
Yeah.
As the Tamir deck, so your mana doesn't have to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be maybe a reason to take out. On the draw, maybe you bring them in, because you just want to be a little bit more aggressive, but on the play, I might actually board them out. So we'll see. Noah going to play a Dismal Blackwater, go up to 21. CJ going to play Bivouac, so he's got perfect mana now.
Well, now, yeah, of course.
Leading he still needs double red, but, Noah did bring in his Thoughtseize and is going to Thoughtseize. Seeing Lukernos, Disdainful Stroke, Sylvan Caryatid, Mountain, Yavimaya Coast, and it looks like another Yavimaya Coast. So we got all the colors. We just kind of have one good card, and
unfortunately,
we no longer have one good card.
Well, we see the Sylvan Caryatid, so CJ kind of on the same thought process of I'm going to leave these cards in because I know my mana is shaky. Yeah, and you kind of have to. Did he draw another Bivouac there? No, he drew a Knuckleblade. Yep. Okay, that's not a bad draw.
So he's going to play Yavimaya Coast and lead with a Caryatid. So Noah drew a Dismal Backwater. Looks like he's going to go up to 21, so that's pretty good for Noah. Noah's really just looking to hit land drops here. He's got a bunch of expensive cards in his hand. Mm-hmm. He would really like to get up to 5-ish mana, so he just needs really primarily to draw one more land, and so he can start chaining off Jace's Ingenuities. But
here comes the Knuckleblade.
Going to be a problem for him. CJ's going to give it haste and get in there for 4. Noah, being the luck sack that he is,
draws the
Hero's Downfall.
Holy
slams it and pass it back.
I don't think that card could have been played fast enough.
I mean, here we go. This is standard, man. This is a war of top decks. CJ top decks a Savage Knuckleblade. Let's see if he says, "All right, well, I'll get in there for 4 again."
We see the Bioblade.
Yeah, the card does nothing against CJ's hand.
Drew a Wooded Foothills, it looked like?
Yeah. He drew a Wooded Foothills, but for this turn he drew a Knuckleblade. Last turn he drew the Foothills. So he's going to crack it, go to 18.
Knuckleblade 2?
See what his follow-up is. It depends. I could see if he has, well, I guess if we knew he drew Wooded Foothills, then he has Disdainful Stroke, Knuckleblade.
Yep.
So he's just going to pass. Noah fails to draw a 5th land. So CJ looking here to pass with the mana up to return Savage Knuckleblade. And I think he's going to get there. Noah doesn't have, I don't think, any interaction. He has a couple of Jace's Ingenuities and Dig Through Time and a Bioblade in his hand. So
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's got only 6 mana, so he can't even cast the Dig, right?
No, he can't. He doesn't have a Dissolve for what I imagine will be a Knuckleblade here. Nope.
Oh boy, Poly K.
To run a Pelucranos out, which, I don't think Pelucranos is very good in this matchup either.
Sure.
But, when your opponent is stuck on lands and, well, now Noah has 2 Bioblades. Unfortunately, he is unable to cast those
Both
2 Bioblades. Yeah, he can cast 1. I just don't think Bioblade's very good in this matchup. I guess you saw Rabblemaster, but
yeah,
maybe Noah kept only in a couple, and now it's just been unfortunate to draw them.
To be fair, Poly K in this matchup is a huge beater that has to be answered.
He is, but he's so easily answered. Mm-hmm. That's the issue.
Sure.
And he's like just gets swept up by your sweepers.
Mm-hmm.
This is the reason also in previous versions of this deck, in like all past standard formats.
Yeah.
When people kept him in, and there was like Supreme Verdict and Detention Sphere around, I was like, yeah, sure, you got a 4-drop that
so
just
Noah's
dies.
only taking 2 off that attack because he hit him with the Bioblight.
Yep.
There's the Crux of Fate.
Yeah, but once again,
no mana.
No mana.
Not to mention, he knows CJ has the...
Yeah, he has the mana up to return his guy.
Well, even he has the Disdainful Stroke still. So
too. Yeah.
It's not. I mean, it's just not going to get there. Boy. Oh, jeez.
Piling on.
Man, when it goes south, it goes south.
Yep.
So you swing with the team.
Flame Wreath Phoenix, and that card's going to get Biobladed.
I would think so. I mean, but at this point, if you're CJ, you're like, that's great.
Fine. You take 7, man. Go ahead.
Drop you to 5. Oh boy.
Noah does draw the 5th land. He doesn't really have any good outs here though, because he knows that CJ has the Disdainful Stroke with the Disdainful Stroke mana up.
Yeah.
Yeah, things are not looking good here for Noah. I don't think he's going to be able to finagle his way out of this one unless he hopes CJ forgets to cast Disdainful Stroke.
Which he won't. Okay, so what have we What have we learned from this match?
We learned that maybe Blue Black Control is still a bad deck. No, I just think what we learned is I don't think Noah was very well set up to play this matchup. I don't think it's a great matchup for him, and CJ just played a few resilient threats and rode them to victory.
Yeah.
And he was able to make it so you can't kill Knuckleblade. You can kill the Phoenix, but I'm still going to get value out of it because it's eventually going to come back.
It will always.
All my guys are gigantic.
Yep.
Noah just, I guess, didn't have enough cards to sideboard out. Had some kind of stinkers still in his deck and Vile Blight.
Yeah.
Once again, he had Disdainful Stroke. No, he did not, but he had Jace's Ingenuities, and his deck was just a little bit faster than being able to cast Jace's Ingenuities. So.
And I think ultimately this is what I like about kind of the Tamir mid-range, Joe Bernal, Tamir kind of control, quote-unquote, lists, is that you have the ability to play these 4/4 beaters, these 5/5 beaters, and now essentially this Phoenix, which is a very good card in this deck, and have counter magic to back them up, which I feel like is strong. I mean, sure, Noah was late drawing mana for the Crux, but even when he did have the mana for the Crux, casting it was pointless because of the Disdainful Strokes. The Stubborn Denial game 1 was timely. I like that. I like that about the Tamir decks. I don't know if this is necessarily the best polished version you can see of this list, but I think it's a good place to start for Standard, at least after Fate Reforged. I know we sold a ton of the 4-drop 4/3s that you can bounce a creature back to your hand and give it indestructible.
Oh yeah, Tamir Sabertooth?
Yeah,
nice.
A ton of them were sold. I mean, just a bunch. So I'm sure people will probably be looking in that direction, just for cards, just like Savage Knuckleblade, that you can return to your hand to prevent control decks from sweeping you, essentially.
That's fair. Plus, that card gets indestructible, too, when you bounce the card.
Yeah, yes it does. So not only am I saving the one guy from your sweeper, my guy is also saved.
Yeah. I don't know. This deck wasn't very good last Standard. I know, it had its moments earlier in the Standard format, and people had success with it, but it wasn't, consistently good, and that could be the mana. Or maybe just the cards it was playing. I'm not really sure. A lot of times when I saw it, it was just the mana was really bad.
Well, remember, it was the combination of the mana being bad because if we were trying to accelerate the deck, we were burning ourselves with mana confluences and just pain lands. We were killing ourselves faster than our opponent could kill us. And I feel like if you go slower, then you're playing a lot of the tapped lands, and you're trying to play this back and forth. You don't have the ability to cast a Siege Rhino that's going to give you life gain, so you can't really play it slower.
Yeah, and I think my question is the Tamir, so if we're moving from then an aggro deck because the mana isn't very stable and it requires us to take a lot of damage, we move to more of a mid-range shell, is the mid-range shell, are the cards more powerful than the Abzan cards is my question. Do we get more out of playing red and blue than we would with playing black and white? I mean, you lose a lot of good cards. Siege Rhino, I think, is probably is better, I think, than every card in this Tamir mid-range deck. I think Hero's Downfall might be better than every card in this Tamir mid-range deck.
Yeah.
You get a lot of sweet Planeswalkers, too, with the Abzan deck.
Yeah.
But you get Thoughtseize. I mean, so that's my issue, is if we're moving to more of this, tempo-y, Tamir mid-rangey deck.
Right.
Is it better? Are we just playing a worse deck than Abzan? Is my question.
You might be, but I also think you find access to maybe not cards obviously there may not be a better 4-drop than Siege Rhino in Standard. There's probably not a better removal spell than Hero's Downfall. In all honesty, you're probably very correct about those two things. But I think what you do gain is you gain access to cards where you can just pile it on your opponent. If they falter for that 1 second and they don't have the Hero's Downfall, and you cast a Knuckleblade, and then next turn you want to see the Unwritten or cast another high impact spell, you can progressively get further and further ahead.
I guess that's true, but I see the Abzan aggro deck, Urborg helping its mana and stuff like that. It's the same situation there. If my opponent gets behind, my deck is aggressive enough that I can just make it so you can't come back.
Right.
I have Fleece Mane Lions and Rakshasa Death Dealers and Anafenzas, giving my guys counters and stuff like that. It's just So
I think you'll still see that Abzan is probably the more favorite of the two just because of the power level of their cards. But I wouldn't be surprised if a Tamir aggro or a Tamir mid-range list is born after Fate Reforged just because of the cards it has access to.
yeah, I think maybe one way that we could go is so we can make like a Tamir mid-range or a Tamir aggro deck, but we can kind of like shift the mana around to maybe not be fully 3 colors and be more relying on being aggressive with like Shaman of the Great Hunt. I think that card is pretty good. That's a card where all of it makes all of the like previous cards you played before like really good, and that when they deal combat damage they get +1/+1.
Yeah.
You're able to draw cards when you get ferocious and stuff like that, so you don't need to just like continue committing threats to the board. You have like a mana sink in that, but I don't know how well.
I could see that. I mean, yeah. I could see a more green-red oriented version that splashes blue for things like Stubborn Denial, things like the ability to play Disdainful Stroke, things to activate
Knuckleblade.
Knuckleblade,
pretty good still.
Yeah, Yassen's ability, because I feel like that's a card that will inevitably see play, maybe as a 2 of, but the card is very strong against other aggro decks. Stealing your Siege Rhino on my combat is a strong play.
Does it steal Siege Rhino? I thought it was... so it's less than her toughness.
Is it less than her power?
Yeah, so it doesn't steal Siege Rhino.
Can't take the Rhino. Let's look. So 4/2, trample at the beginning of combat on your turn. You may pay 3. Colorless, blue-red. If you do, gain control of target creature and opponent controls with power less than Yasseva's power until end of turn. Untap that creature gains haste. So we can't steal Rhino unless we pump her.
We can with Shaman of the Great Hunt.
But we can't. Boom! Right, so you can use Shaman of the Great Hunt, and I think that's good. I think you have the potential to look at this guy. I know I saw some lists online that people were using him and Xenagod as the end curve for...
Yes, a Tarka World Render and Xenagod seems like a good combo.
Yes, it does. So
I will play my Tarka, give it haste,
give it double strike, kill you, and that was it.
Make it a 12-8 and kill you.
But I think you have access to some of these cards, and that's really what are mad. I mean, there's so many new cards in the set that you can potentially play in these decks. I mean, you have the Sieges from... I mean, you could see a Tamir list that goes into more of a control shell where it's playing the blue Siege, and now all my creatures are Frost Titans, or I'm drawing extra cards. I mean, there's a lot of ways it could go, I guess. Depends.
Yeah, we'll see.
It'll be interesting. Well, regardless of that, what do we have coming up? We got SCG Regionals, which will be huge. I mean, this is something, if you haven't gone online and pre-registered yet for this event, head over to nerdragegaming.com. Make sure you pre-reg. And, I mean, you got a $5,000 cash prize, you got Squirrel playmat, you got foil Squirrel tokens for the first 200 people who pre-reg. I mean, this is a big event.
3 weeks out, man. Get your testing in now. It's going to be pretty sweet.
I saw the trophies the other day. I saw the banner the other day for the winner.
You saw it?
I saw it.
I assume it's hanging up in your room.
It's sweet.
Right?
Well, it's on my door right now.
Okay,
but, I wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a good event to come out to. There's a very few around the country. I'm obviously not going to win it.
Oh, you want to feel like a champion.
Yeah, I want to feel like a champion.
These next 3 weeks. You're going to feel like you actually won something.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you haven't gotten your chance to pre-order, make sure you do so you can get the Squirrel mat and the Squirrel tokens, which are foil, which look awesome. Force of Squirrel token in foil looks nutty. No pun intended. Looks super good, though. I mean...
Now, does everybody who enters in the event get those Squirrel tokens?
No, those are...
That's only to the first 200 people,
too?
The
first 200 people who pre-register. And I will tell you, we have had a pretty good amount of people pre-register.
Pre-register.
You have to go pre-register right now. So you can head over to nerdragegaming.com, look at the pre-register events section. Pre-reg, it's only $35 for
you get some sweet sweet stuff.
Yeah, you get sweet swag. I mean, you might as well.
I mean, even if you go 0-2 drop, or in my case, 0-1 rage quit, you still get some sweet stuff for your $35.
All right, guys. Well, we'll be back with round 3 shortly. Stay tuned.